It's about the I got to say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
Gets the ball, gets back, pulls up for the win. Got it! Detroit basketball.
Oh, Holloman looks the clock, has up for the win.
Oh! The Lions go for it. The Vikings bring it in. The pass is a touchdown to give.
Javi Baez homered earlier. First one in the air, deep left field again. Yes, Tigers win. Javi is unstoppable.
This is BS Sports.
And away we go. Welcome one, welcome all. I got to tell you, going into this week, I was thinking, probably going to be maybe a bit of a slow news week. Not a whole lot happening. Spring training in baseball. Blah. Kind of in the dog days of the NBA season. Blah. College basketball is kind of winding down. That was maybe what I might have focused on. And then yesterday morning, I get a notification on my cellular telephone that says Montgomery to the Texans. And I was like, David? And yeah, so that is obviously the headliner. Welcome in, Detroit fan. As is expected, you are here. Anytime there's big news, you got to know that this guy will be here. News prediction. Let's take a look. Lions trade Monty. Yeah, I mean that's in the title. I guess for you guys down here, but for me it's up here. Anyway, Lions trade Monty. Red Wings trade deadline. Pistons need to kill the Cavs talk. MSU basketball gets the Indiana sweep. We will talk a little bit about a little bit of that. All of that. Probably the least amount is the Red Wings trade deadline because we'll get to it. Anyway, so this is important. Thank you for this. This is excellent. So this was the breaking news yesterday. Probably, I kind of want to say one of the biggest, if not the biggest story in the NFL yesterday. The Lions trade their second-tier running back, their backup running back, David Montgomery, their knuckles to Gibbs' Sonic, to the Houston Texans. The full trade is the Lions get center Juice Scruggs, who is 26 years old. I'm sorry, 26. I think he actually is 26 years old. But Detroit also gets a 2026 fourth rounder and a 2027 seventh round pick. So they get a couple of picks, and Houston gets a new running back. I guess if we're just looking at this objectively, forget about fan narrative, forget about all that, winners and losers. It kind of feels like a pretty decent trade for both teams. For Houston, they add to their running back room. Who was even their running back last year? Because I'm pretty sure Mixon was hurt for much of last year. David Montgomery has shown himself to be a very, talented, run through the tackles, get you a couple of yards when you need them, running back. And either way, he's also a veteran in the league. So pretty solid enough move for the Texans. I do think ultimately the Lions got the value out of this. That you bring in a young offensive lineman, a guy who's started in a few games in spurts, but he's generally a depth player on the O-line, and a couple of draft picks for a running back who was your backup running back. So, I'd say it's basically a pretty solid enough trade. Now, there's a few things to actually take away from it narrative-wise. My immediate reaction is that Detroit seems like they're moving to a one running back system. Now, the sentiment among many fans and among many of the talking heads is that they're basically probably going to use that fourth round pick for his replacement. Potentially. That's entirely possible. Brad Holmes certainly not shying away from using draft pick for a running back. No doubt about that. Thank you, Bacon Bombs. Joe Mixon, Nick Chubb, and Woody Marks was the running back room in Houston. And I'd say David Montgomery probably squares in at the second spot there because the rest of Nick Chubb is just a corpse of himself, and the other guy, Woody Marks. Does anybody know who Woody Marks is? if Woody Marks walked into this room, would you know who he is? Anyway, where was I? Scruggs, he's a depth guy. He's not. He started in one game last year, and Houston's offensive line was terrible. I guess I'm happy. Yeah, you needed maybe another body in that offensive line room. If Campbell sees something in this guy that maybe Houston was underutilizing him or failing at developing him, okay, fair enough. One of the needs of this offseason was offensive line, and they already went out and got at least a depth piece for their running back too. So I can live with that. On the contrary to some fan belief, though, this to me says that the Lions are actually pretty serious about, making some big changes here. Like, David Montgomery was a fan favorite. He was like a part of this core. I mean, him getting brought in was when the winning really started in Detroit in 23, and then they extended him last year. Like, he was a major part of this operation here. And the fact that Detroit said, you know what, it's not working out. The fit, maybe the writing is on the wall. He obviously did miss some time in 2024 down the stretch there, and that very well could have, and his performance in the playoffs, that very well might have been, a sign of things to come. Maybe his best days are behind him, and Detroit said, you know what, let's cash in while we still can, and not, get attached to our own guys. So to me, that it seems like a win to go ahead and trade him for some picks, which is where Brad Holmes, I think, even the most critical of fans will agree, Brad Holmes shines in the draft, even notwithstanding the last maybe couple of drafts where you didn't have, all pro future Hall of Famers necessarily. And even then, I think last draft was a pretty fine enough draft from like a trenches perspective. Tate Ratledge and Tyleik Williams, I think, were both pretty decent guys. Anyhow, that's a totally different discussion. On the other hand, I really like David Montgomery, and I was vocal that I thought I would like to keep him if that's possible. It seems as though they did not agree, and they know more than me, at least about the the status of him as a player. What is his health? What is it that he's asking for? Like, if he was asking for a pay raise, I think you can go back and look at past shows. I didn't want them to trade David Montgomery. When that sort of talk started among fans, I was not too keen on it, because my philosophy is this: you don't get better by getting rid of good players in general. There may be some cases where you can make yourself better in what appears to be a counterintuitive way, but in general, you don't get better by getting rid of bad players. You get better by bringing in good players and keeping good players on your team. And Dave Montgomery is a good player. But again, the Lions brass, after a hugely disappointing season, a failure of a season last year, they do not see any sacred cows. They do not care about rocking the boat potentially. I mean, once again, this is a guy that Jahmyr Gibbs looked up to. This is a guy that fans loved. And they said, yeah, we're going to move on from him. We're going to trade him and get some picks, and save some money on that point. So to me, like, this is a signal in the, okay, like, if we were afraid that Holmes or that Campbell were trying to, what's the word? Get too complicit or just, only keep their own guys and not, settle for going out and taking a risk. I think this move tells me that, no, I think they are willing to take a potentially risky move. I mean, let's put it this way. This move could very well blow up in their face. Like, their running back core could turn into what used to be, a top group in the league with Montgomery and Gibbs too. It could turn into just a complete mess of itself, or a shell of itself. And Montgomery could go out in Houston, if they can fix their O-line, he can go out and have a really good season. Now, I'm not saying that that's more likely. I think it is more likely that the Lions will come out looking much more like winners in this move than the Houston Texans. But at the same time, again, it's at least, it's a move where you can say, okay, there is a tangible risk being taken by the Detroit Lions by trading away a fan favorite, a locker room guy, a leader, All of that. So with all of that said, obviously, and on that point, there's another offseason move that had been made, and Lions cut Graham Glasgow. So that's going to save them some money as well. And once again, the Lions are seeing that the offensive line is a problem. They trade their running back to bring in a depth offensive lineman. They're cutting Graham Glasgow, who had a really not great year. So maybe they're telling us that prepare for free agency because we're going to try to bring in some offensive line talent to, fix what was very obviously the biggest flaw on the team. So I am optimistic after this trade. Obviously, free agency is going to start, I don't believe next week, or I don't believe this week. I believe next week is when it starts officially, when the league year officially begins. I could be wrong about that. You can let me know in the chat. But either way, I guess I find the move interesting, and it could pay out, or the Lions could go back to what they have been historically. Hopefully, it's not that. And I suspect it's not that, but only time will tell. All right. Lot of stuff on this. This is before I mentioned it, but the Red Wings talk for right now. If Gebson was seriously injured, I would bring up Red Wings talk more. Yeah, I did see that he left the game against Nashville in a game that it was a little bit closer than I was like, oh no. So they lose that game. That's going to be a whole thing. But let's focus on the Lions here. People talk about the 49ers and Lions being injury prone, but the Texans get injured a lot also. I mean, I think when people talk about injury prone teams, it is a little bit of just like knowledge bias in a way. I know that sounds counterintuitive. Like you hear about the injuries to teams that you focus on. So obviously, if you're a Lions fan, you think your team is the most injury prone. If you're a 49ers fan, you think your team is most injury prone. If you're a Packers fan, you probably think your team is most injury prone. Like pretty much whichever team you are so hyper fixated on, you're going to hear about all the little injury news. You're going to hear this guy tweaked this at practice. This guy hurt this at training camp. This guy's out for the season. Like guys that most people probably even haven't heard of. And then, oh yeah, by the way, the Vikings or whomever are super injured. Okay, I guess they are. This was their running back. Monty will be a starter there easily. I don't know if I'd say easily. Joe Mixon's pretty good. I think it's going to be him and Mixon for sure. I don't know if Montgomery's going to win that over Mixon like outright, but I mean, especially Mixon was not very healthy last year, if memory serves. So Gibbs is a top 3 running back in the league, but I don't see the Lions going into a 1 running back system, even when it was Swift and Jamal as the running backs. We've been using 2 since. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it is a new offensive coordinator in Petzing, and it is a new, in Kafka as well, like 2 new offensive minds. But I agree. I think you're probably going to see them bring in some other running back, whether that's in free agency or in the draft. I'd probably prefer the draft. Like I probably prefer like a 3rd or 4th round pick. Like I'd rather them not go all out and sign Kenneth Walker, as much as I would love it as a Michigan State fan. I don't know that I want to spend all of my free agency money on a running back when we could have just kept David Montgomery if that was the case. I do see the Lions drafting a running back since I don't think Vaki can be that running back 2, but whoever we trade will probably compete with Vaki for the running back 3 spot. Yeah, Vaki, he's been a little bit disappointing. I really thought he would kind of turn into a little bit of a gadget player, even on punt returns. He's not even getting that job, So yeah, I don't know. I mean, like he's a decent enough special teamer, but not anybody that I would see in our running back room. You can't get better by getting rid of great players for good players and lots of draft picks. This is true. Running back 2 might go for a cheap veteran like Aaron Jones or James Conner. Now, James Conner I could see because of the Arizona connection. Please not Aaron Jones. We need a power back. Not a guy the same size as Gibbs. Yeah, I tend to agree. I think Aaron Jones' best years are behind him. If you go out and you bring in Aaron Jones, you might as well have just kept David Montgomery in my mind. So Kenneth Walker to Detroit. Joke, I know, but Seattle didn't tag K9, so he might be able. Yeah, no, I mean, like, he's going to get paid. He just won a Super Bowl. I'd look out for a team. I'm trying to think. Maybe, like, I know the Cowboys, they just brought back their running back. You know, a lot of times when guys like that, they actually don't end up going. Like, I could see the Chiefs. Maybe the Chiefs want to add him to their running back room. I think that'd be an excellent move for Kansas City. You know, I'm trying to think here now. With the Panthers, I don't know what their situation is. You know, maybe you know what would be awful is maybe the Vikings make that move. You know, with Aaron Jones potentially going down, they bring in another Michigan State player. It's like selfishly, I would like to have some Michigan State players on the Lions because I only get Aiden Hutchinson, who is a Michigan player, and every Michigan State player seemingly has to go play for a team that's a rival of Detroit. Like, I got Jalen Naylor on the Vikings, got Jaden Reed on the Packers, and I had Kenneth Walker on the Seahawks, but Blake Corum. I wouldn't trade for Blake Corum. I don't think that'd be worth it. Jalen Naylor available. No, I mean, like, I wouldn't. If you're gonna make a move, I would draft a running back. This is and you know, the Lions don't have to listen to me. They don't have to listen to anybody. They can do what they think is the best move. But I would probably draft that running back. I would look for a guy out of the 4th round. I would use that pick that you got, from David Montgomery. I'd use that pick to bring in a running back. I mean, you saw that Gibbs can handle the boatload of carries. You know, I think you can, you know, bring in another guy to kind of help on the back end when Gibbs needs a rest. Ryan Eckley. We're just going to draft only Michigan State players. That'd be a great way to tank a season. Just draft nothing but Michigan State players. What's his name? Oh my gosh, what is his name? Who was the linebacker for Michigan State for like 100 years? He didn't wear gloves. That was his whole thing. What is his name? Oh my gosh. What was his name? He didn't wear the gloves. That was his whole thing. Was that he was tough. He didn't wear gloves. What was his name? Oh my gosh. I think he was on the team last year. Was he? No. Maybe he was. Eckler's the only MSU guy worth drafting for that 25 team. Yeah, that's true. Is Jonathan Smith available? One of the Buloff brothers? No, he was like a recent player. Hold on, let me look up MSU football linebacker. What is his name? That's the 26. Let me see. Okay. Hold on. Offense. I need defense. Okay. He wasn't on the team this year. I don't think. No, I don't think he was. Okay, hold on. I realize this has come to a screeching halt. Jordan Hall. Let's see. All-time linebacker recruits. I mean, I don't know how helpful this is. Jordan Hall, Chris North. Okay, continue. I am not. I'll fix next time. Shut up. I'm not turning my ad block off. Oh my gosh. There's a white guy. What was his name? This is going to bother me. Guys. I have to find this. Cal Halladay. This dude. This annoying guy. He never went away. Is he playing? Is he in the NFL? Did he get drafted? Wait. Was he on the team last year? No. What happened? He never made the NFL? That's actually kind of surprising. Like, he led the league in tackles in 2022, or assisted tackles. I'm a little surprised by that. Yeah, he had the pick 6. I'm a little surprised. He couldn't even get a spot on like a practice squad. Hold on. Really? Let's see. College career. Ahead of the 2023 season, he was named to the watch list for the Butkus Award. Like, is he still at Michigan State? Like, was he just hurt? It says like 2020, like present. Was he a grad assistant? Like, how did he? I'm like shocked. No, 2025 was his senior year. Okay, so then he was on the team last year. But he didn't play. Really? Yeah. What happened to Cal Halliday? Did he fall off the face of the earth? Did his hands finally break from not wearing gloves? That's probably what happened, Mike. Yeah. Jordan Hall was pretty good. I wouldn't mind taking Jordan Hall, although he gets hurt a lot. That's what I remember. Anyway. Oh, there's Dennis Schroeder, former Piston. Pistons locked in a tight one here, 13-all in Cleveland, in the land, as they say. Oh, don't talk about LJ Scott, man. Don't do that. Where is LJ Scott? Isn't he dead? Did he die? No. Actually, did he die? No, he's still alive. He's still alive. Somehow. Where did LJ Scott go to high school? Is J.K. Scott still in the NFL? LJ Scott. How does the AI get KJ? So what? Like, is it just that the cat? Like, it's because I'm off of Reddit. I'm not seeing any Are people talking about the Cavs in a very particular way? I don't. Like, people are really high on the Cavs because of the James Harden move. Look, I told you at the time, the moment I saw they traded for James Harden, their season is over because they're not going to win the playoffs because he doesn't win the playoffs because he's a loser. He's a born loser. Some people are born losers. It happens. He's got that big old beard. He's got the beard, so he's got that going for him. Oh, that's a nice rebound by Cade Cunningham. Wow. Anyway, speaking of the Pistons, so they got a pretty good game here going up against the Cavaliers. Cade wanted a foul there. He didn't get it. So Pistons had what seemed like a tough stretch. They're dominating. They beat OKC. They beat Cleveland. They beat Orlando on the road. Just one little problem. They beat OKC, but none of their starters were playing. OKC's starters, that is. They beat Cleveland, but Cleveland didn't have Donovan Mitchell or James Harden in that game at home. And they beat Orlando, who is admittedly probably the healthiest team of those three teams. So they had that, basically. They beat Orlando on the road. That was probably the most impressive of the wins. Now, here's the thing. I'm a big fan of the NBA. I like the NBA. I like watching the Pistons. I like to watch the NBA playoffs. I like NBA culture, I guess. I don't know. I find it interesting. I like the league. However, if there is one major glaring problem with the NBA, it is this. 2 of those games were national broadcasts. And those were the Cavs and Thunder game, where both teams had their major superstar players in street clothes. Now, here's what you might be saying. NBA fanboy / Adam Silver. What you might be saying is, look, guys are hurt. What do you want them to do? What do you want them to do? They're hurt. Listen, Okay. Let me tell you something. There's a difference between you tore your ACL or you broke a finger and knee soreness or ankle discomfort or shoulder pain. Here's the thing. From a fan standpoint, let's just assume you're a Pistons fan or you're an Oklahoma City fan and you went to that game last week on Wednesday night. You went to that game, right? And you were ready. You were going to see Cade. You were going to see Duran. You were going to see Shai Gilgeous out. Oh, no, he's out. Okay, well, you're going to see Chet. Oh, no, he's out. Or you're going to see Jalen. Oh, no, he's out. Well, now this game has just kind of become a letdown, like a game where you're like, okay, the Pistons are going to win this. It's just a matter of how long can the Thunder's bench hold on to this game. Like, how long is it going to take for Isaiah Hartenstein to realize I'm not that good? Actually, I don't even know if he played that game. Let me actually look that up. Pistons, Thunder. Hold on. For some reason, I'm thinking he didn't actually play that game, but I just want to make sure. I can't remember. Let's see. No, Hartenstein did not play that game. Also, just for the record, they got the other Jay Williams. They had Jalen Williams, not what is the actual guy's name on the Thunder? Apparently it's not Jalen Williams. Hold on. No, hold on. We're going off track. Okay, the point of this topic was this. Given the fact that two of those games, you had multiple of the superstars just not playing. If they were injured, I don't know. If they were whatever. Nobody knows. And, with all the stuff about tanking and how does the NBA stop it, here's my thing. I think I have the solution as to how to stop this, but I don't think it's ever going to actually be implemented. And the solution is this. You have to stop paying these players so much money. And it's twofold. It's not just on the players. But I will start with it being on the players. On the players' end, they are making so much money, or they have a chance to make so much money to the point where, look, I can't risk going out there and getting hurt. What if my big contract goes away and I don't make all that money? I need to make all that money. I need to make the extra few $1 million I wouldn't have made if I, twisted or if I seriously hurt myself and was down for a season or what have you, And then on the other side of it, on the owner's side, look, they're investing a very large amount of money into the players alone. I know people say, look, these are millionaires, these are billionaires. They can afford to pay their players. And generally, I agree. But you got to think of it from their perspective. Assuming this doesn't pay off, they're basically burning 30, 40, 50 million dollars on a player that fans hate, or on a player that doesn't play, or whatever. So from their perspective, look, in the same way that you would not just, take a, Ferrari on a road trip across the country, these owners are like, I'm not letting my superstar player play, 70 games in a season. No way. He's not worth it. Just make the playoffs and then play in the playoffs. Because that's the only thing that matters is a championship. There's no pride. There's no, giving the fans a product night in and night out that is worth your time and your money. No, there's none of that. And like I said, this is just not going to happen. I mean, I have just never in my lifetime, and I'm still young. I'm 26 years old. I've never in my lifetime seen seen things get cheaper, basically. Seen things go from hyper expensive to, you know what? Greed is getting a little too out of hand. Let's stop. Let's cut the pay in half. Okay? Like, just what are we doing? This is ridiculous. But it's, now you're making all this money. I mean, the league makes more money than it ever did with all the sponsorships, with all the different networks, with the sports betting, especially with YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and all these social medias where, I know Matt M. Silver made fun of this for saying it was a highlight league. He kind of has a point. I mean, like, people are consuming NBA content on Instagram probably more than they are on FanDuel Sports Network or on ESPN. So, and these NBA players are, full halftime, part-time NBA players, part-time celebrity, part-time, podcaster, part-time movie star in the case of, LeBron James, part-time, what am I trying to say? Clothing designer. I mean, like, you have like shoe designers, like all of this extra stuff. Like, remember when it was just about playing basketball, and maybe this is just because I'm a Pistons fan. I'm not from a big media market. I wasn't, I don't root for the Celtics or the Knicks or the Lakers. But some of my favorite players, they were not the players that got into a bunch of commercials or that were celebrities in their own right. Some of my favorite players were Ben Wallace, a guy who just balls, a guy who just bullies people and slam dunks the basketball, or Chauncey Billups or Rip Hamilton. These were my guys. These were my kind of players. And even historically, guys like Bill Laimbeer who just get under your skin and bully you and push you around and get into fights. And even to today with guys like Cade Cunningham and Isaiah Stewart, guys who just bully you, basically, who are just, and in the case of Stewart, a lot more brutish than Cunningham, but you get my point. These players nowadays are just simply making too much money, and it's not any fault of their own. I'm not telling them, or I'm not saying that the players are wrong for accepting, life-changing money. If I was in their shoes and a team said, we're going to pay you $40 million a year, yeah, I'll take that. Sure, I don't care. And if that means that I'm only going to play, 60 games a year and then play in the playoffs, or I'm only going to play 50 games in the year and then play in the playoffs, I'm good with that as a player. So the incentives are just too perverse right now. It's just, you need to hem it in. Like, you can't have these guys making so much money to the point where, there's no there's no incentive to play just for pride or for love of the game. It's the same reason that you don't have guys going to the All-Star game. Like, there's no reason to, go out and, put your body on the line in an All-Star game, in an exhibition game, when you're getting paid $80 million a year. Why would you risk that money going away on an exhibition game? I'm not one of these people who said, who thinks like basketball was absolutely totally better in the pre-HD era, as I sometimes will call it, the 90s and 80s. However, I'll give you this. I don't remember people talking about load management in the 90s. Now, granted, I wasn't alive, but still, you never hear about it. The only time you ever hear about old players talking about it is making fun of the idea. So I think the NBA, the solution is impossible, but it is the solution. Can't be paying everybody this much money. Too much money, too much of an investment, too much of a risk. There it is. All right. Talk from the Cavs locker room as they are believing they can beat the Pistons. This comes from the 112-119 win Pistons had the other day when the Cavs kept up despite no Mitchell or Harden. Okay. Do you see that K could win MVP because of all the front runners on the very? This is another thing. Like, we tried to do this. Like, Adam Silver, I'll give him some credit. He tried to say, hey, we're going to put a limit. You guys got to play this many games to be eligible for awards. And these players, they said, we don't care. We're just, if we don't want to play, we're not going to play. Yeah. I don't think the number is right, but I believe to qualify for the most rewards in the NBA, you got to play 65 games with an 82, which, again, this is where some of these players, when I hear them complain about this, think about it this way. When I go to work, I have to show up 365 days out of the year. I'm not working every day a year, but you get my point. 5 days a week, I got to show up to work, and I got to work for, 8 hours that day. This would be the equivalent of saying, you know what? You can show up 2/3 out of the time. 1/3, you can just not show up. Now, what you might be saying is, well, you do have that. It's called time off. It's called, PTO. Fair enough. Here's the difference. When I get paid time off, it's not as though I can just show up at the office and hang around. Like, these guys will go to the games. They will be on the sideline. They'll be hemming and hawing. They'll be hanging around. And I guess I would prefer them to do that. But, man, you don't look hurt. I'm just saying. I know what people, you don't know what it's like to be. Okay, understood. But just think of it optically from a fan perspective. If I got to hear, he's nursing an injury, and you're not on crutches, or you're not in a wheelchair, or you don't have ice packs on you, all I see is you yucking it up with the guys while our team is losing a game, potentially. Just the way I see it. I don't know. Then we got a Demo comment. Lions should have kept Demo another year. What we got was garbage in comparison. I guess I'll just disagree. I don't think what we got was garbage. I think what we got was the going rate for a backup running back in the year of our Lord 2026. I mean, I guess I would only ask, what did you expect to get? We weren't going to get anything above maybe a 3rd round pick. But even then, I mean, this is a backup running back. You probably wouldn't even you probably could get a 3rd round pick for Jahmyr Gibbs. And we used a 1st round pick to draft him. I mean, look, like I said in the segment, I think as far as value, you got what best value you were going to have. And if they tried to work with him, they said, hey, look, we got this new offensive coordinator, is run heavy. But if Montgomery didn't feel valued, okay, well, then we'll move along. We can't. This was as high as the value as you were going to get for him, because there's no world, I think, where he's going to come out next year and pull at a Derrick Henry and just run for 1,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. I just don't think that's going to happen, especially not given he's a backup. And frankly, he's going to a much worse spot in the Houston Texans as far as offensive line goes. Now, granted, Houston can fix their offensive line, but still. Probably going to wait until after the deadline. The thing is, they've got a couple of games here as well that if they start losing and they go into that deadline, they do nothing. I had a little bit here, okay? Red Wings are starting to look a little bit sloppy. Okay, they got an overtime win against the Senators. They got blown out by the Carolina Hurricanes. They got a nice win on the road against Nashville. That was okay. Why, can somebody explain to me why was that game on the middle of the afternoon? Can somebody explain that to me? Because I just didn't understand. I thought maybe it was a neutral site, but I missed it, or maybe there was some. It was just 2:00 in the afternoon on a Monday. No idea why. Maybe it was a rescheduling or something. I don't know. Either way, they got the nice win. I'm gonna let me see. Where are the Red Wings in the standings? Let's see. NHL standings. Also, let me just see. Okay. Let's take a look here at the NHL hockey standings. Okay, so the Red Wings are back at the 3 spot in the Atlantic Division. They're tied with the Buffalo Sabres in points, who have one less game played. So, Buffalo very well could be ahead of you after that. Shout out to the Buffalo Sabres, by the way. Talk about getting themselves right back on track. Although they might be a similar team to the Red Wings. But look, the Red Wings also are the only playoff team in the East with a negative goal differential. Granted, it's -1, but that doesn't bode well down this stretch. Okay? Like, they got Vegas this Friday. They got Vegas Wednesday, and I believe they got Florida on Friday. They got New Jersey on Sunday. New Jersey's not that great of a team, but they're going to be fighting for a spot. They got Florida again. They got Tampa Bay. Like, they have a really, really tough stretch here. And my fear is, if you go out there in this trade deadline and you do nothing and you just stand pat because you like your guys, then this team is not going to make the playoffs. Mark my words. They're going to fall apart because the message that, the higher ups would be sending is, okay, guys, go on then. Especially if Gibson is hurt. And this is the thing. When you got Gibson, okay, couldn't stay healthy. All right. Now you're entering March. You've struggled in March. Ever since Steve Yzerman got here and before, the Red Wings had struggled in March. So this is supposed to be the time. You were in the 3 seed in the playoffs. You were well secure in that spot. So there's no excuse. If you fall apart here, Steve Yzerman has to be fired. And I don't want to hear about, yeah, but Mo Seider looks so much better. Yeah, but Lucas Raymond looks great. Yeah, but Axel Sandin Pellikka is going to be a superstar someday. I don't want to hear about any of that because this would be his team after 6 years collapsing again with a new coach that he brought in, with players that he brought in, with a goalie that he brought in getting hurt again. This is the shot. If they make the playoffs, fine. Steve Yzerman gets to stay for a little bit longer. If they fall apart again, which I'm telling you, it's right there in front of them for them to fall apart. You have, just in the month of March alone, let me just look at the standings really quick, just so that I can double check my numbers here. You got they're not. Technically, Florida's not a playoff team, but they're, I'm not totally writing them off right now if they go on a crazy run here. But you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. 7 teams that are currently in the playoffs you will play. If you don't win any of those games, you're in a tough spot because you're going to basically have to go perfect against bad teams. And let me tell you, that's not going to happen, especially when you have a team like Florida who is probably not going to want to miss the playoffs after going to back-to-back Stanley Cups and winning them. I'm just telling you, okay? Like, I don't think they're going to want that. And I think even though they don't look good this year, and even though, obviously, they've been injured, they've been struggling, and even now they've lost a couple of games in a row, weird things happen in the month of March, especially for this Red Wings team. Golden Knights tomorrow, Panthers on Friday. Friday's the deadline. Tomorrow's a true last deadline game. Look, if they go out there tomorrow night and they get their doors knocked off by Vegas, who, by the way, is elite again, a very, very good team. They are the number 1 team in their Pacific Division. 70 points on the year. That's less than you, but come on. Like, don't sit here and act like there's some scrub. Okay, this would be a tough team. So, yeah. You are entering some must-win territory. 7 years, 3 head coaches, no playoffs. It's all you. Yeah. Tom McClellan is about to walk away, especially after that just jerseys comment after the Carolina game. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't hear the comment, so I'm not going to comment on that. I want Costa to be a Red Wing, but not because of the John Gibson injury. See, look, I was talking to my brother about this. I'm pretty sure something happened with Sebastian Costa. Like, I don't know. He called Steve dumb. He was listening to BS Sports. He liked a video. I don't know. Whatever it is, it's preventing Sebastian Costa from making it to the Red Wings. I don't know. I have no idea. Like, I'm just going to pull up his numbers because I'm pretty sure he's been really, really good. This is on Hockey DB, okay? All right, continue without disabling. I'm not disabling my ad blocker. Okay, literally, he's having his best season yet with Grand Rapids. A 199 goals against, 24-4, and a 927 save percentage. Like, I don't. How is he not on the team? How can you tell me that he's not at least as good as Cam Talbot? How? He's 23 years old. Like, come on. Like, give him a chance. I don't understand it. He played in 1 game last year. So you can't even say it'd be his debut. I just don't get it. Anyway, that was my brief Red Wings comment. Red Wings topic. So, wanted to briefly, let's finish it off here. Land the plane with a little bit of MSU hoops. Massive win on the road against Purdue. That was a huge win. Great game for Michigan State. That was a must-win game. I said it going into it. You win that game, you're right back on track, and they did it. They won on the road. That's a tough-ass place to play. Now, granted, Purdue might be falling apart a little bit because they lost to Ohio State after that game. I don't care. That's a massive win. That's going to really help with your potential seeding in the tournament. That's a huge win. I was ecstatic about that win. That was an awesome win. And the way this team is playing, my question is, do they have a shot at the Elite Eight? Because last year's team was an Elite Eight team. And frankly, yeah, I think they probably could make the Elite Eight. Like, again, depending on that seeding, depending on how they end this season. You know, if they get a favorable seeding, they certainly could end up in that spot where an Elite Eight path is much easier. Now, there's one other thing that I wanted to talk about, and this is only a brief segment, so, you know, just do with it as you will. Jeremy Fears has seemed to adopt a reputation. And that reputation is that Jeremy Fears is a dirty player. So, let me go over the history. In a rivalry game, Fears played very physically and admittedly was even doing some nasty moves. He was tripping guys. It didn't look good. Then, following that, he had his Draymond moment, as many Michigan State players do. He had his Draymond moment where he's, using a unorthodox method of a jump shot or block or whatever. I don't remember what the video was. It was a little much. And now the talking point about Fears is that he's a dirty player. And to me, I just am asking, outside of those 2 games, can you cite anything else? Like, to the people who want to lay that claim, like, can you cite any other instance other than a 2-game stretch, one in a rivalry game and one in a frustrating loss on the road? Like, I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve criticism, but if literally the only thing determining him as, a quote-unquote dirty player is 2 games out of a this is now his third season in college basketball. Like, I just don't really get it. Like it'd be one thing if every other game Fears is kicking some guy in the behind, or he's kicking some guy in the other place, or he's, pushing guys, or he's getting into fights, or he's talking smack. As far as I can tell, he's a pretty soft-spoken guy. Doesn't really get into a lot of verbal altercations. Doesn't really get a whole lot of tease. I don't think he's ever been ejected from a game. And yet, I guess I will probably credit this a little bit with some of the Michigan media blue wall people. Anytime a Michigan State player, does anything that is even slightly potentially, controversial or maybe done in a moment of weakness, anytime that happens, the Michigan people, they're ready to go. They're ready to jump on the scene. Oh, look, there he is. There's the dirty Jeremy Fears. He's really controversial. Michigan State really needs to hem him. And it's like, what are you talking about? Jeremy Fears has been on the team for 3 years. And you're telling me that because of 2 games where he allegedly was, playing dirty, he's now forever a dirty player? Is that how this works? I'm fine with calling Draymond a dirty player. I'm fine with calling Miles Bridges a dirty human being. But those guys have like an actual reputation. It's like, why the sudden jump? Just my thought. I don't know. All right. Outside of the games in Michigan and Minnesota, I haven't seen Jeremy Fears being anywhere near the next Draymond Green. This is my point. It's not even close. Like, the team loves him. Izzo obviously loves him. There's really been no indication. Like, I don't even know if he was ever suspended. Like, it's just completely made up out of whole cloth. And is it just a coincidence that it happened right after the Michigan game? Come on. This might be Fears' 3rd year, but he's a sophomore due to him being shot his first. That's right. Yeah, he basically got a medical red shirt. But yes, this is his 3rd season. So it's not as though he just came out of nowhere. Yeah, I mean, I think if Fears decides to come back, I think he absolutely should decide to come back. I like him. I think he's a really good point guard. I don't think he's an NBA player. I'll just say that. I think he is right now. He's not quite Cassius Winston level, because Cassius Winston had a much better jump shot, but he's in that category. And Cassius Winston was not an NBA player and is not an NBA player. So I think he should come back. And with that big recruiting class, if he thinks he can get an NBA draft spot, it would be with next year's class. With that group of shooters, or with that group of players, he could certainly boost those assist numbers a heck of a whole lot. So he was never rejected for the Minnesota kick. He didn't play afterwards, but that was Izzo's call, not the Big Ten or the rest. Exactly. Like, Izzo took him aside and said, "Hey, you're getting frustrated, and I'm stopping this right now." And that's all it was. It was a guy getting first game with Michigan, rivalry game, physical, getting a little emotional, maybe getting a little ahead of yourself. Okay, you could, fine. Like, to act as though Michigan has never done anything like that. Like, Michigan fan, please, get over it. This is just the Michigan fans. Anytime a Michigan State player ever retaliates against a Michigan player, it's always, Michigan State has a culture problem. Oh, Michigan State, they're just, what's going on? There's something brewing in East Lansing. Tom Izzo needs to tell his players to stop fighting for themselves. Just please stop being tough. We need no toughness from Michigan State. That's basically what ends up happening. It always happens. If Michigan State football ever ends up being good, I guarantee you there's going to be some, after a Michigan game or after another game, there's going to be some Michigan fans concerned trolling and, all of that. And yes, this is another thing. These are the same people who said, well, Juwan Howard, he's from Chicago. What? You expect a grown adult man not to punch another head coach after losing a game on the road? That's what you expect? You have such high expectations. Anyway. All right. So that is pretty much all I got. So I guess next week will be post NHL trade deadline. We'll have a much better idea as to what, the Red Wings are going to look like. It'll be the end of the regular season for MSU hoops. So we'll see if Michigan State can at least split the season series against Michigan. That would be nice. With all due respect, I'm not talking spring training. The Tigers have a new broadcast network, so that's cool, I guess. Another subscription service I'll have to go and buy. Super stoked about that. Just hoping that FanDuel dies, and I just want my teams. I just want them all. Why can't they all just be on YouTube TV? Why? Why can't I get the Illich Sports thing on YouTube TV? Explain that to me, Chris. Put it on YouTube TV. Anyway. Next week we'll break it all down. I'm pretty sure it'll be the start of the league year, so we'll probably have a bunch of NFL news and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure it will be. When does NFL free agency start? March 11th. Oh no, it'll be the day before. Dang it. So literally we'll have one more episode before that period starts. We'll have a lot of other stuff. We'll have NHL trade deadline. We'll have college basketball wrapping up. We'll have more Pistons stuff. So, and I'm sure there might even be some trades. So that's entirely possible as well. So with all that being said, I do appreciate anybody for stopping by, listening in, and hanging out. I will talk to you all next Tuesday. Have a great rest of your night. Hopefully the Pistons can finish a comeback here. They're down 8, but they've been playing it fairly close, although they just turned the ball over, so that's fun. Have a good rest of your night, everybody, and take care. See ya. Goodbye.